Love and Tears. Episode: The Quiet Ending. Sometimes love doesn't end with a storm. It ends with silence. Ethan had always believed that if his marriage ever fell apart, it would be loud, the kind of heartbreak that leaves echoes in empty rooms. He imagined shouting tears, nights spent drowning in whiskey and regret. Maybe staring at their wedding photos, trying to trace the moment where things began to crumble. But reality? It came quieter than that. That evening, as they sat across from each other at the dinner table, Sophia looked up from her plate and said softly, almost casually, "I don't think I'm happy anymore." No tears, no trembling voice. Just a calm sentence that ended years of love. And Ethan? He didn't react. Not a blink, not a word. Something inside him just switched off. Sophia's eyes stayed on him, searching. Maybe she expected him to reach for her hands, to beg, to promise to change. Maybe she thought he'd fight for her with grand gestures, the kind that belong in movies. But he didn't. He simply set his fork down, wiped his mouth with the napkin, and asked in a voice so calm it almost scared her, "Is there someone else?" It wasn't anger. It wasn't sorrow. Just clarity. Sophia hesitated for a second, a flicker of surprise crossing her face before she masked it with a small, breathy laugh. "Why would you ask that?" Ethan leaned back, watching her. "Because this doesn't come out of nowhere." She bit her lip, pushed her plate away as if food had suddenly lost its taste, then tilted her head slightly, that little motion of pride that used to charm him once. I don't think we're right for each other anymore." He nodded slowly, a quiet understanding blooming in his chest. He knew she was lying. This wasn't about compatibility. It was about distance, about one foot already stepping out of the marriage, long before this conversation began. He could see it now, the late nights at work, the sudden interest in fitness, the phone that always stayed face down. Maybe there was someone else, maybe not. But either way, he had his answer. She was done, and strangely so was he. Sophia waited, maybe expecting him to explode, to cry, to fight. But Ethan simply stood up, picked up their plates, and walked to the sink. "All right," he said quietly. She blinked. "What?" He rinsed the dishes, his voice calm, almost detached. "You want to leave? Then leave." Her frown deepened. This wasn't the scene she'd rehearsed in her head. She'd prepared herself for tears, for guilt, for him clinging to her. But not this stillness, not this peace. And for the first time that night, Sophia looked unsure. I don't want to just throw everything away. We've been together for so long. So now she wanted caution, hesitation, a safety net. Ethan turned off the tap, dried his hands, and met her eyes. "You've already thrown it away, Sophia." She inhaled sharply, like someone who'd just been told a truth they didn't want to hear. "That's not fair," she whispered. He gave her a faint, humorless smile. "Fair. You came into this conversation with your decision already made. I'm just respecting it." Sophia pressed her lips together. "I didn't say I was leaving right this second." There it was. She wanted time. Time to adjust. Time to test the waters, to see if the new world she was walking into was worth the one she was leaving behind. But Ethan was done giving her time. He walked past her toward their bedroom. She didn't follow at first, but curiosity or maybe guilt eventually pushed her to her feet. "Where are you going?" she asked quietly. He didn't answer. Instead, he opened the closet, pulled out a large suitcase, and set it on the bed. When she appeared at the doorway, her eyes widened. "Ethan, what are you doing?" He started folding her clothes neatly, one by one. "Helping you pack." The color drained from her face. All that confidence, all that control gone. This wasn't how she'd imagined it. She thought he'd beg, that she'd hold all the power. But instead, he was handing her an exit. Calm. Final. "Ethan, let's just talk about this," she pleaded. He looked up at her voice, steady. "What is there to talk about?" She stared at the suitcase, her breath uneven. I don't want to rush anything." Of course she didn't. She wanted time to weigh her choices to see if the other side was really worth it. But maybe it was already too late for that. Sophia wanted time to weigh her options, to test the waters, to see if leaving me was really worth it before she made it final. She wanted to keep one hand on me while reaching for something new, but I wasn't going to let her. Ethan zipped half the suitcase closed and looked up at her quietly. "I'll sleep in the guest room tonight," he said. "Take as much time as you need to pack the rest." Sophia's lips parted like there was something she wanted to say, an apology, a protest, maybe even a plea. But no words came out. Ethan picked up his pillow, walked past her, and closed the guest room door behind him. And just like that, for the first time in years, he felt weightless. He didn't have to chase love that no longer wanted him. He didn't have to keep proving he was worth staying for. He was free. And Sophia, she just didn't know it yet, but she was about to regret every single choice she had made. That night, Ethan lay in the dimly lit guest room staring at the ceiling, waiting for the familiar wave of pain to hit him. The kind of pain that knocks the breath out of you, that leaves you hollow. But it never came. No heartbreak, no panic, just a strange calmness. He expected to feel crushed, angry, desperate to fix what was broken. Instead, he felt clear. For the first time in years, everything made sense. Sophia's hesitation, her half-truth, her sudden distance, it wasn't confusion. It was calculation. She wasn't lost. She was already gone. It wasn't that she had simply fallen out of love overnight. No, this had been unraveling slowly, piece by piece, right in front of him. He just hadn't wanted to see it. Looking back, the signs were everywhere. Little things that seemed harmless at first, the small changes, the fading warmth. She used to light up whenever he walked into the room. Her eyes would soften. Her smile would reach all the way up. She'd drop whatever she was doing just to kiss him hello. But somewhere along the way, that stopped. Their conversations turned mechanical. Their affection turned into routine. Quick hellos, distracted nods, a peck on the cheek that felt like habit, not love. Then came the phone. Sophia had always been attached to her phone, but something about it changed. She started angling the screen away from him, leaving it face down. When it buzzed, she'd glance quickly, then set it aside as if hiding something in plain sight. Ethan told himself it was nothing. that she just needed her space. That trust meant not questioning, but trust. He realized now isn't blind. It's not about avoiding the truth just because you're afraid of what you might find. Then came the late nights. Sophia's job had always kept her busy, but there was a time she'd still message him. Little texts about when she'd be home, what she was craving for dinner, how tired she was. Then one day, the messages stopped. At first, it was a few late meetings. Then drinks with co-workers. Then entire evenings gone. Don't wait up. She'd text. Big project tonight. Dinner with the team. It wasn't the lateness that hurt him. It was the distance. She stopped asking about his day. Stopped wanting to spend time together. Stopped seeing him at all. And every time he tried to talk about it, she'd snap. You don't trust me. You're being paranoid. God, Ethan, not everything is about you. At the time, he'd believed her. He thought maybe he was overreacting. That maybe she was just tired or stressed or needed space. But now, lying alone in that quiet guest room, he understood the truth. He hadn't lost her. He had already lost her long ago. He just hadn't accepted it yet. And once you finally face that someone you love has been gone in spirit long before they ever leave in body, something inside you changes forever. Ethan closed his eyes and thought back to the beginning. They had met at a friend's party, one of those awkward nights where neither of them wanted to be there. But somehow, fate had pushed them together. She was bold, funny, wildly alive. The kind of woman who laughed with her whole body. She'd pulled him onto the dance floor even though he'd warned her he couldn't dance. And when he tripped over his own feet, she'd laughed so hard she could barely breathe. That night, they talked for hours about everything and nothing at all. And Ethan remembered thinking, this is it. This is the kind of woman I could spend my life with. And for a while, they were perfect. Lazy Sundays tangled in bed. Midnight drives with no destination. Inside, jokes no one else understood. They were best friends before they were anything else. But somewhere along the way, that best friend disappeared. He couldn't even pinpoint when. There was no explosion, no big betrayal, just a slow, invisible drift, like sand slipping through his fingers. Until one day his hands were empty, like sand slipping through his fingers. Before he even realized it, there was nothing left to hold on to. Sophia stopped laughing at his jokes, stopped reaching for his hand when they crossed the street, stopped seeing him, truly seeing him as the man she once wanted. Maybe it was boredom. Maybe it was someone else. Or maybe she'd just been waiting for him to be the one to end it first. But in the end, none of it mattered. Because Ethan was done fighting for someone who no longer wanted to be fought for. A soft knock at the guest room door pulled him from his thoughts. He stayed silent. Then came another knock, gentle, hesitant. Ethan, he sighed, rubbing a tired hand down his face. Yeah, there was a pause. Then her voice again, smaller this time. Can we talk? Ethan sat up, but didn't move to open the door. About what? I don't want things to be like this. He let out a short, dry chuckle, the kind that held no humor at all, like what, Sophia? Like you wanting to leave and me letting you, she exhaled sharply. He could hear the edge in her voice, now that faint frustration of someone losing control. I didn't think you'd just give up so easily. And there it was, the truth hiding behind her words. She didn't want reconciliation. She wanted validation. Even while walking away, she still wanted to feel desired. Ethan stood, walked to the door and opened it just enough to see her. Her arms were crossed, her expression caught somewhere between irritation and confusion. He met her eyes, calm and unreadable. You made your decision, Sophia. I'm just making it easier for you. Her throat tightened as she swallowed hard. So that's it. Just like that. He leaned against the door frame, his voice low and steady. I could fight, I could beg, I could try to convince you to stay. But let's be honest, would it change anything? She looked away. I don't know. He gave a small, knowing smile. I do. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. For the first time, she wasn't the one in control. And that flicker in her eyes, that tiny flash of regret, told him everything. But it was too late now. He had given her the exit she wanted. And now, she'd have to live with it. The next morning, Ethan woke early, not because he couldn't sleep, but because for the first time in so long, he had peace. No weight pressing down on his chest. No racing thoughts of what he could have done differently. No need to hold on to someone who had already let go. He heard her moving in the bedroom, the soft scrape of drawers, the shuffle of clothes being folded, the occasional thump of frustration. He didn't check on her, didn't offer to help, didn't ask if she was sure. She had made her decision. He was simply giving her the freedom she'd asked for. A few hours later, Sophia stood by the front door, her suitcase beside her keys in hand. Ethan sat at the kitchen table quietly, sipping his coffee, scrolling through his phone like it was any other ordinary morning. Well, she said, finally clearing her throat. I guess I'm going now. He looked up, briefly, nodded once. Take care. Her grip tightened on the handle of her suitcase. That's all you have to say. Ethan exhaled slowly, leaning back in his chair. What do you want me to say? Sophia, that I'm heartbroken, that I can't imagine life without you, that I'll sit by the phone waiting for you to change your mind. Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came. He shook his head gently. I'm not going to beg. You want it out? So go. For a brief second, something flickered across her face. Maybe regret. Maybe realization. But she masked it quickly. She grabbed her suitcase, opened the door, and stepped outside. At the car, she paused, glancing back at the house one last time. Ethan didn't move. He didn't chase her. He just lifted his mug and took another slow sip of coffee, watching as she drove away. And that was it. After 5 years of marriage, she was gone. He waited for the sadness to come, for the sharp sting of loss. But instead, there was calm. She thought he'd fall apart without her. She thought she'd be the one walking away with power. But as it turned out, she was leaving behind the best thing she ever had. And soon, she'd realize that. Days passed, then a week, then 2. Ethan didn't call, didn't text, didn't ask mutual friends how she was doing. He turned his attention inward, back to the life he had neglected for so long. He started hitting the gym every morning, reconnected with old friends, took on new projects at work, and little by little, he began to thrive. Not to prove anything to her, but to himself. And then, almost predictably, Sophia started watching from afar. She didn't text, but she didn't have to. He could feel her eyes on him. She hadn't unfollowed him on social media. In fact, she started watching his stories more than ever. The gym check-ins, the nights out with friends, the quiet posts that showed him smiling, really smiling. For the first time, she saw a version of Ethan. She hadn't expected the man she thought would crumble without her. But instead, he was standing taller than ever. And maybe, just maybe, she realized she'd lost more than she ever understood. Same spark she once had was gone. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes, and for the first time, she looked unsure, like the version of herself she'd built without me had started to crumble. "Hey," she said softly, almost like she was afraid I wouldn't answer. I nodded politely. "Sophia." She fidgeted with her bagstrap eyes darting to the floor before meeting mine again. "You look good." "Thanks," I said, tossing a few apples into my basket. "You too." It was a lie, and we both knew it. She gave a small, forced smile. "So, how have you been?" I shrugged. "Really good, actually. Life's been peaceful." Her eyes flickered like the word peaceful hit her harder than I intended, because she remembered what peace used to look like. Me making her coffee in the mornings, us dancing barefoot in the kitchen, before work laughing about nothing. But that was gone. She hesitated, like she wanted to say something meaningful, something that might undo the silence between us. But all she managed was, "I'm glad you're doing okay." "Yeah," I said simply. "I am." The moment hung between us, awkward, heavy, but final. I wasn't cold. I wasn't cruel. I was just done. She blinked a few times, nodded weakly, and gave a small wave before turning down another aisle. I watched her walk away, realizing that for the first time I felt absolutely nothing. No ache, no anger, no longing. Just closure. Later that night, as I sat on my balcony, with a drink in hand, city lights flickering in the distance, I thought about how strange it was how people leave thinking they'll find something better, only to realize they were already holding it. Sophia had once been the center of my world, but now she was just a story I'd outgrown. And somewhere deep down, I knew she was probably lying awake that same night, replaying every decision, every word, every moment, finally understanding that when she walked away, she didn't just lose me. She lost the version of herself that only existed when she was loved by me. She had been so sure she made the right choice. After all, she was the one who walked away. I gave her a polite nod. "Sophia." She smiled, shifting awkwardly. "It's been a while." I nodded once. "Yeah, it has." Her eyes drifted down to my cart. Fresh produce protein shakes, a clean diet that spoke louder than words. I was taking care of myself now. "You look good," she said softly. I knew what she meant. She didn't just mean physically, she meant everything. I looked like a man who had moved on a man she no longer had control over. "Thanks," I said. Life's been good. Her expression flickered uncertain. You seem busy. I chuckled lightly. You could say that. She bit her lip, hesitating. I've missed talking to you. There it was. The first real crack in her confidence. I tilted my head slightly. Yeah, she nodded, stepping closer. I don't know. I guess I've just been thinking a lot lately. I said nothing. I let her sit in the silence, let her hear the echo of her own regret. Finally, she sighed. I didn't expect things to feel this way. Ah, so that was it? She thought she'd feel free. She thought she'd be happier. Instead, she felt empty. Not my problem. I gave a relaxed shrug. Well, you made your choice. Her breath hitched. Ethan, before she could finish, I glanced at my watch. I should get going. Got a meeting soon. She blinked, caught off guard by how unbothered I was. She had expected me to want this conversation to give her an opening. Instead, I treated her like a stranger I used to know. She forced a small smile. Right. Of course. Well, it was good seeing you. I nodded, calm and detached. You too, Sophia. Take care. And with that, I walked away. I could feel her eyes on me, standing frozen in the middle of the grocery store, probably realizing that for the first time, she no longer had power over me. She had walked away from something real, something stable, something no other man would ever give her. And now, she was starting to understand that, but me, I'd already moved on. It started subtly, her watching my stories again. Her random, hey, how have you been? Text that I left on read. The accidental run-ins that weren't accidents at all. Sophia wasn't just lurking anymore. She was testing the waters, trying to see if there was still a way back in. But that door had closed a long time ago. The breaking point came on a Friday night. I had just come home from a business dinner when my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it until I saw the name, Sophia. I hesitated, then answered out of curiosity. Hello. There was silence, then a shaky breath. Ethan. Her voice was different this time. Not confident, not cold. It was raw, broken, desperate. I know I probably shouldn't be calling, she said softly. But I needed to talk to you. I sighed, rubbing my temple. Sophia, what do you want? A nervous chuckle. I don't even know where to start. Try the beginning. She was quiet for a moment, then exhaled. I made a mistake, Ethan. I let the words settle, unmoved. Yeah. Which part? She sighed. All of it. Leaving you. Thinking I wanted something else. Thinking I'd be happier without you. Her voice trembled heavy with months of regret. I thought I wanted freedom, she whispered. I thought I wanted something different, but none of it mattered. Not the new apartment, not the so-called exciting life. Because I had everything I needed when I was with you. Her confession might have shattered me once. Months ago, I would have held on to every word hoping for a second chance. But now, it didn't move me at all. I had outgrown her. I miss you, Ethan, she said, voice cracking. I sighed. No, Sophia. You miss the comfort. You miss knowing I was always there. But you don't miss me. If you did, you never would have left, she sniffled. I was stupid. I let out a humorless laugh. That's one way to put it. Then, after a pause, she whispered, "Is there any chance at all for us?" I closed my eyes, letting her words hang in the air. Then I said what she needed to hear, not what she wanted. "I gave you an easy exit, Sophia, and you took it. A beat. I'm not the kind of man you get to choose twice." The silence that followed was heavy, her breathing uneven, like she'd just been punched in the chest. And for the first time, she truly understood what she had done. She had gambled with something real, and she lost. I could hear her trying to hold it together, searching for words that might fix what was broken beyond repair. But I was done. "Take care, Sophia," I said quietly. Then I hung up. I sat there for a moment staring at my phone, waiting for something: sadness, nostalgia, anger. But there was nothing. No pain, no longing, just peace. Because the moment I hung up, I knew I had won. Not because I got revenge, not because I proved anything to her, but because I had moved on. And she was left with nothing but regret. And that was her real punishment. Closing narration for YouTube channel. If you've ever walked away from someone who took your peace for granted, this story is for you. Tell me, have you ever had to let someone go to find yourself again? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Love and Tears for more stories like this one.